Hello, everybody. Hey, Jornay, how are you?
Hey, and I am just here and ready to have this conversation. For the Flip Grid for All community conversations, we have some special guests with us. Um, yeah,
And when she says special guests, she means the authors of No Voice Too Small. And I'm having my own fangirl moment as we're getting ready. But we are so excited to welcome Lindsay, Keela, and Jeanette. So I'm going to go ahead and add them. Hello, hello, hello. We are so excited that you are here.
We're so excited to be here.
Definitely.
And Jornay's back. We know she was having a weather phenomenon go on down in New Orleans right now.
So happy to have you all here. Thank you for the inspiration that is just filled inside of this book with incredible young Americans who have made differences no matter what their ages were because they had a passion. So thank you so much for bringing that to the world. And we can't wait to hear about you and what inspires you.
Yeah, so if that's how we want to start off, we would love to have the three of you rotate through. Please feel free. Let us know who you are. We know you have incredible skill, heart, talent, and passion. And let us know a little bit about your work. And I don't know, whoever wants to go first. Lindsay, why don't you kick us off?
Sure. Thank you for having us. This is a huge honor. And as I was telling you guys before the event, my kids love Flipgrid, and they were super excited when they found out that we were involved. So I'm a debut author. No Voice Too Small is actually one of 3 books that I have coming out this fall. I live in Kansas, and I'm a journalist as well. So I have No Voice Too Small. And with Albert Whitman, this is a different publisher. I have Beatrix Potter's Scientist, which is a picture book biography. And coming out in a couple weeks, just after the election with Calkins Creek, I have a book called Farmers Unite, Planting a Protest for Fair Prices. So I guess what gets me excited is people using their voices and making a change that they see that's made. So really excited to talk to you all about how students can raise their voices too.
That's awesome. Keela, why don't you hop in next? We'd love to hear from you.
Sure. So my name is Keela Dawson, and I am actually I was born and raised in New Orleans. So Janae and I are homegirls. And No Voice Too Small is actually my second book. My first book was actually set in New Orleans, called The King Cake Baby, about the little runaway that we have, that we hide inside of our king cakes during the Mardi Gras season. And in January, I have Opening the Road, Victor Hugo Green in his Green Book, which will release. And I actually started out as a community activist in the Vieux Carré, believe it or not. I did it for a short period of time, and then learned that what I really wanted to do is what I studied to do, and that was to be a teacher. So when I became a teacher, I also had learned from that experience being a community activist that I could use my voice to help students. So I went into special education, and I became an advocate, an activist in that area for children. And I have been doing that all over the world because I've lived in the Philippines, I've lived in different states in the US, in Egypt and Japan. So children have always been my focus.
That's amazing. Oh, thank you for sharing that. And Jeanette, welcome. We'd love to learn a little bit more about you as well.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having us here. It's really just such a pleasure. I am the co-editor and also the illustrator of No Voice Too Small. And I have 2 other books. So my first book, which I wrote and illustrated myself, was, whoops, I need to hold it over here. Love Mama. This is the board book edition, and it's really like for young kids that have separation anxiety. And it was inspired by my own kids. And then I illustrated When the Babies Came to Stay by Christine Mcdonnell, which has a similar thread to No Voice Too Small, because it's sort of a fantastical story about 4 babies that appear on an island and no one knows where they're from. And the town librarian takes them all in and the whole community raises them. And it's sort of like a fairy tale and then also sort of realistic. But it's the same kind of thing where it's people who see a problem and just decide that they're going to do something about it and help people. And so the inspiration for No Voice Too Small, for me, the spark was I, at the time, had a 6-year-old who loved reading picture book biographies. She loved Little Leaders, and she persisted. That was like all she wanted to read were these picture book biographies. But then one day she said, I wish I was born in the past. And I said, why? And she said, because I wish I could make a difference in the world. And I realized that what she had taken from these books was that in order to make a difference in the world, you had to be a dead famous person. Mm-hmm. And so we started talking a lot about how you can make a difference in the world right now, even though you're a kid. And that was where the idea for this book for me came from, was the desire to tell the stories of other kids, other young people who were doing things right now, and show kids that their voices do matter and that they can make a difference even though they're not famous or dead.
So inspiring. And it's this beautiful triangulation of you 3 and your passion, not only as authors, as poets, but that's what the book is all about. Featuring the voices of very alive and very innovative, creative, passionate, heartfelt, purposeful young people who are passionate about advocating for change. So the book, I'm so excited already, No Voice Too Small, is all about those young people making history. So it's incredible to hear. And I know you just sort of launched into the purpose behind it and the why behind it, but I thought maybe you could describe it a little bit more and talk about the special way that it's set up. And I'm going to do like a photo share as you talk about this, whether it's the voices included, the poetry, the creative way that it's shared, the gorgeous illustrations that Jeanette created, and let you talk about this as not only heart, but words and purpose behind it.
Yeah, so we have 14 young people featured, as you said. And a question that we've been getting from kids a lot is, how did you choose who to feature? And it was tough. There are a lot of kids that are really active right now and doing amazing things. And we had some criteria that we kind of wanted to hit. We wanted them to be alive right now and working right now so the kids could see that that's possible for them. We wanted them to be people who had started their activism at a young age, and also from diverse backgrounds, diverse regions, diverse causes. We wanted to hit a lot of different notes so that anybody who picked up the book could see themselves in it. And one of the ways we thought would emphasize that would be to invite a lot of different creators to contribute. And so that's how we landed on poetry, not only for the emotion that it conveys, which these are really emotional, passionate stories, but also to bring in this own voices aspect so that each young person could really be represented by someone who shares an aspect of their identity. So that was really important to us. And luckily, when we reached out to all these famous poets, they were excited about it too. And many of them said yes.
That's incredible. And I love that connection is the folks that created the poems, as mentioned, have a personal connection. For example, I love sharing DJ Annie read, but the word poem by Charles Waters, like the connections from the poet and the youth activist is a gorgeous double overlay behind the heart and passion and emotion of the work inside the pages. That's incredible, Lindsay. Thank you.
They
Wow.
both live in Brooklyn too, and they actually got to meet. So we have this cool picture, and I don't have it pulled up right now, but they're like giving each other a hug. And Annie Red's got her own book that she self-published, and she's holding it up, doing this, and
I love
you
that.
were able to make a lot of cool connections that way.
I love that. And I love that too, like in the back of the book, and I don't want to make a lot of noise of the pages, but you speak to not only the poets, but the poetry forms, which is very creative. So I don't know what you can speak to that, because it's a celebration of ballad, cinquain, concrete poem, the triolet, the onomatopoeic poem. Like, this is a creative, the structure of how you shared their voices too.
Yes, one of the things that we share when we talk to students and teachers is that the book itself is an anthology. So we have 14 young Americans, 14 different poets. We were the editors. So, you know, we may have made suggestions here or there about the poetry, but each poet wrote their own poem. But it's much more. If you look at Mari's page, here we go. If you look at Mari's page, the way the book is structured is we have not just a beautiful illustration that Jeanette drew for each activist, and she'll speak in depth about how she was able to manage that, because these are stories about real kids and real teens. So there was a lot that had to go into that in itself. But we also have 3 forms of text. So the layers are just amazing. We've got a prose biography, the poem, and then we have a tip at, oops, where's the tip? There we go. At the bottom, tip, which will hopefully inspire young people who are very interested in things, you know, something that they may care about. And the tip is based on any action that that the young activists actually engaged in. So, so the book itself has lots of layers. And when you mentioned the concrete poem here, it was just amazing how Carol Boston Weatherford used a water bottle to talk about Murray, because that was the problem. She saw, she was a person who did something about a problem, and her poem and her actions reflect her activism.
Oh my gosh, yeah. There were so many times that when I first got the book and read through the poems and then partnered with these gorgeous illustrations, and Jeanette, we'll have you share a bit about that. But Keila, as you just mentioned, those call to action. And so I'm a former first grade teacher, and you all have referenced this, and it's something that I know Jornay and I in our own learning communities want our students to know their voice matters. And even if you are a young person, what you're passionate about, what you're interested in, what you're wanting to activate for and create and work towards change, that beautiful call to action that you include in every example is a tangible way you can immediately get involved in doing something in your community. And that's beautiful. Thank you. And so, speaking of these illustrations, Jeanette, I've seen other things that you've done where you've live illustrated. And when you launched the book, I attended your session and watched you sketch in real life. But I thought maybe you could share a little bit. And again, like you just referenced this one with Mari and this illustration. I mean, these are gorgeous. But they add a beautiful layer to this anthology.
So one of the things, once again, that I always talk about with kids is that a portrait is more than just a photograph of a person, but it's a visual storytelling tool. And so in each of these pictures, I tried to tell a story that related to the person and to the poem. And so I did a lot of research on what they looked like, how they moved, what kind of clothes they wore, all that kind of stuff to try to make it realistic. But I also tried to include an element of storytelling in the pictures. That one was one of my favorites to draw. It was very fun.
And her sash, is everything.
Yeah, the sash and the princess power. That's my little daughter's favorite picture. So in drawing them, now I've lost my train of thought because I'm thinking about Princess Power. I tried to express some of what was in the poem, but also just to tell a little bit more about what that activist, what's meaningful to that activist, and a little bit try to show a bit of their personality in the illustration as well.
Oh, I love it.
And to go back to what you were saying about poem forms, one of the cool things about this book is we did not tell the poets what to write, like what form, and they themselves just picked 14 different forms of poetry. And so when they all came in, we said, we need to add this as a layer to the book because this is so cool that they all picked a different way. Of them have these very structured forms, and some of them are free verse, and they're also different from each other. And so we wanted to include that as like another layer in the book.
I love that. And I'm going to have a fangirl moment. Lindsay, I have to say, so this first one comes with Amplify, right? And it's a reverse poem that you wrote. And let me tell you, that's the beautiful thing about the creativity behind this, reading it front to back and back to front. And it sets the stage in this beautiful way of all of these stories. No voice is too small to solve a problem. So I love that. And I want to dig in a new way right now because it's been fascinating to hear you talk about the purpose and the structure and the design and the intention behind it. But I know Jornay has a few questions because lo and behold, you all are sharing resources for the entire world to have connection and access and activity beyond this. So Jornay, take it away.
Yes, so we know, how literature can just bring a world of knowledge to students. And not only does this book bring knowledge about how students can be activists, but also, once again, serves as a great model for a form of expression, which is writing. And so I absolutely love the resources that you all have come together to provide to educators around the world to not only inspire their students to use their voice for change, but also to inspire them with writing. So I would love for you to share just a little bit. And can you maybe bring up this collection and where educators can find the collection? And then we can talk a little bit about what educators will be able to find there and use tomorrow in their classrooms if they wish.
Yeah, so right inside the Flipgrid Discovery Library, when you go to the featured collections, you will see the No Voice Too Small book club. And so I'm going to pop inside and do the navigating on the back end as Jornay guides us into this collection.
Yeah, so once you click on the collection, you'll see 16 incredible topics that have been created. And so I would love for you all to share just a little bit about what you decided to put in Discovery, maybe the reasons why. As a former second grade teacher, I was like, man, I really could have used these tips and examples right inside my writing center. I did writer's workshop every single day. And, this is a perfect way for students to learn about a creative way to express themselves. So if any of you can start speaking towards the collection.
Yeah, so we had this idea before the pandemic because No Voice Too Small really lends itself to the Flipgrid mission, which is amplifying student voices, right? And I had seen a couple of other authors that had done Flipgrid projects, and I thought it'd be really cool to try to connect in that way. So when the pandemic started, it just all really fell into place because we knew we wouldn't be able to go into schools, and we wanted students to really be able to interact with the book in a deep way. So what we did was we invited all of the creators, all of the poets, and all of the activists to submit a video if they wanted to. And not everybody had time. It's pretty time consuming, as you know, to create videos instead of doing live things. I personally have to do 12 takes in order to make a 3-minute video, you know. But we did get several, and based on what we had submitted, we came up with tips and questions that students could get to thinking about how they can impact the world. And there's also some writing exercises. And I think the introductory topic is Welcome to Book Club. And that's actually our book trailer created by Jeanette. And it features real voices of some of the activists that are featured.
I love this. And you just mentioned the call to action, if you will. For example, Judy Adams, the question rooted there is Judy says one person can change the world. Do you agree? Why or why not? And I love that that's the start of a conversation. But you referenced too some of these workshop resources, and I'd love for you to talk about these too, because it's like pro tips from the pros.
I feel like I learned so much watching these writing workshops. You know, they work on any age level, really.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the one that Jeanette did is very different because it's about the art, and the one the poets did, you know, you have a mini writing workshop. The one I did was pretty much geared toward something that I had written for the educators activity guide.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of layers within the book club and on Flipgrid as well.
Yeah, and like I was not a published poet before this, so I thought, what can I bring to this, even though I do have poetry in here, and I have a journalism background. So in my workshop, I talk about interview questions. If you want to write a biography poem or something, how do you get the other person to talk?
Yeah. Well, looking at some of them, and so Jornay too. I'm not sure if the weather or the power popped out. I can see her, but I don't know if she's able to join back in. I love that, and you talked about your own learning in these resources, but what rich, valuable, whether you're using it for workshop, whether you're teaching a mini lesson, whether you're digging into that voice or that structure, these are incredible resources that are just built into your topics. And to come back to real quick, Jeanette, yours are really creative as well, because you're doing like a self-portrait artist masterclass on illustrating. So can you maybe speak to like what one of these topics is all about?
I mean, I can talk about mine, and then I can talk about somebody else's as well. So in mine, I have two. I have one that's geared toward younger kids and one that's geared toward older kids, which is a longer video. I realized that when I do videos of myself, I tend to just like go on and on and on, and I have to cut myself off. But I talk about what makes something a portrait and the history of portraiture, and then do a project which is called Meet the Artist, which is a cartoon thing that a lot of illustrators share on social media, and they use hashtag Meet the Artist. So what you do is you draw a little cartoon picture of yourself, and you label things on yourself, like, you know, here's my guitar, here's my here's my cat, here's my favorite t-shirt, here's pizza, my favorite food. So you label all these things, and then adding a layer to that, you can also add in like your likes and dislikes or things that you care about. What issues do you want to change in the world? And so I have this little project that kids can do at home. There's a worksheet where you can just do it on a plain sheet of paper, and it's a lot of fun. We've done this in a couple live school visits, and the kids get really into it. They really like kids love to draw self-portraits, and it's a fun project because you're labeling things and it's like a cartoon.
That's incredible.
Lindsay,
I mean, and it's like a master class with you too. And so having the opportunity to sort of learn a pro tip from a pro is, I mean, let's talk about the cool factor. That's really cool. So I mean, whether it's on demand from the Discovery Library or live on a call, that's really, really, really cool. I'm just going to keep having my fangirl moments. Okay?
Yeah. And also just listening to each poet talk about their process or talk about their inspiration. I mean, the one from Greg Neary is really funny because
I love his.
I was asked to write a poem and I didn't know what to write about. And then I got this idea.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It's really fun because it's true. I mean, this is, we all start with a blank page.
Mm-hmm.
All have that. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, where are the ideas? Because that's one of the questions that kids always ask. Where do you get your ideas?
Yeah. I love that. And so for friends who are listening in, to use these topics, all you have to do is click that add topic and you'll get the template directly from these authors and you'll be able to pull these resources. You'll hear from these experts. You'll hear, and you simply just bring in that Flipgrid topic to use in your learning community. But these resources are this incredible treasure that are included in these topics with the call to action and the questioning behind it. I love these topics. I'm obsessed with them.
And my favorite one, I think, is the No Voice Too Small pledge at the end, which is part of our conclusion poem. And when we do school visits, Keela does this awesome rendition, this reading that's call and response. And I can just picture classrooms full of kids saying the call to action. Yeah, they may not have a bullhorn with them, but
I love this.
So I want to see some kids on Flipgrid. Don't your parents buy you a bullhorn, but right? Schools have bullhorns, right?
They do. They totally do.
Well, of course. So get on it. Get on that pledge.
Oh my God.
Shout out to my cousin whose daughter just got a bullhorn. This is what she needs to do with it.
There you go.
But it wasn't from me.
Your kids got your back.
Keela, it's all about the positive noise, right? The positive noise. And I know Jornea is back, and we didn't talk about this. We didn't have this. I've taken the pledge when I attended your book launch party, but I would love would you be willing to read the pledge to us? And I'm always down for this. And Jornea, I know you have another question. But we have people tuning in from Romania, from the Philippines, from Guatemala, from Libya, from Portugal. There's, folks around the world literally right now tuning in. And the beautiful thing, it's community excited to empower and so it would be an honor to have you lead us through this pledge.
Absolutely. First, though, I would like to say that on the cover, everyone can see that these kids are at a protest. Now, we know that a protest is not the only way you can be an activist. However, if we were at a rally right now, if we were at a march, we would probably chant, because that's probably what Mari is doing on the cover, because that's Mari Copley right there on the cover. So what I'd like to do before we take the pledge is chant. I'm going to say, no voice too small, and you all join me and say, my voice matters, because that's what I would want kids to say.
No voice too small.
My voice matters.
No voice too small.
My voice matters.
No voice too small.
My voice matters.
Exactly. And that's this is how we would engage young children, or how we do engage young children when we are talking with them about, because a lot of kids are actually participating in these marches. It's a part of their family life. It's a part of what's happening in their communities. So we don't want it to be scary or foreign, but to make it so that they are knowledgeable. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the pledge. At the end of the last poem in the book is called Make Some Noise. The last few stanzas in the book is actually where I take the words to make the pledge. And what we'll do is I will say the words and you repeat after. Okay. And there's a microphone involved. I got all the props. Okay. All right. So the No Voice Too Small pledge. Ready?
Ready.
Each of us can be.
Each of
us
can be
the someone.
The someone
who does something.
Who does
something.
We can speak our heartache.
We can speak our heartache.
Sing our joy and
sing our joy
and
share our dreams.
Share our dreams.
We may be small.
We may be small.
But we can roar.
But we can roar. I love it. And I hope friends literally around the world are repeating with us. I love this. I love this. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Jordan, I know you had another question. This has been such an inspiring bit of time, but Jordan, do you wanna
honestly, the question has already been answered, because the question was, how can your incredible resources help educators to empower every voice in their learning community? Because our mission is our community's mission, to empower every learner on the planet to share their voice and also respect the diverse voices of others. And I think this pledge that we just shared together is one awesome way. Those resources that you've shared inside of Discovery is another way. Any other tips, ideas for educators that they can take back with them to empower their students to really be voices of change?
So one idea, if you look at the back of the book on the same page as the conclusion poem, there's a set of questions. Can you see that? And it sort of takes the guesswork out of activism. I mean, a lot of kids who are reading this may not have thought about what they're passionate about. They may not have articulated that in their mind. A lot of kids have. But the first question is not sure how to start. Ask yourself, what is the problem? Why do I care? That would be a great writing exercise, is just to answer these questions. Why are things the way they are? Who has the power to make change? Who else cares about this issue? And so it walks you step by step through, how do you take this huge problem and narrow it down into something manageable that you can either do yourself or round up other people who are also passionate about this thing. So I think that would be a really cool way for classrooms to get involved.
Love those questions. Thank you so much for inspiring the world and really highlighting these incredible, people, because some of them are adults now, right? They may have started their activism as children, but thank you for highlighting their stories in such a beautiful way to inspire other students to truly make a change and stand up for what they believe in. So with that being said, we really thank you for the time that you took out of your day to spend with us and to share a little bit about your passions. Thank you for using your gifts to make a change in the world. And thank you for all that you do to continuously empower every voice.
Thank you for all your support. This is incredible.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having us.
Well, we absolutely appreciate it. And if anybody is looking for resources, you can find this. I know you're using the hashtag No Voice Too Small on social, but friends, also feel free to look for the cover in the Discovery Library to have access to all of those incredible resources. Lindsay, Keela, and Jeanette, thank you, thank you, thank you. And friends, I mean, I'm highly recommending this, so definitely check it out. We appreciate you all, and we will see you out there, friends. Thank you for joining in. Please do take care and be well. We'll see you later.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.